Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are listening to me, from wherever you guys are listening to me from. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of the GSMC Soccer Podcast. I am excited to get into everything we're going to be talking about today. I completely dropped the ball in my last episode. Didn't even talk about Champions League football, Europa League. It just completely blew my mind. I knew the games were this past week, and the week now that we're about to get into, but I don't know why. I just didn't talk about it. It had been so long since I talked about domestic league football. I was just like craving it. So now in today's episode, we are obviously going to be getting into all of that European football talk. Let's just get into the rundown. Let's just get right into it. I'm just excited to talk about it all. First segment, we're going to talk about Champions League. We're going to talk about the first leg of the quarterfinals. We got the second leg coming up this week as well, so I'm obviously going to do a little bit of a preview, see who I think is going to make it into that semifinal, that final four. Second segment, we're going to talk about the Europa League, talk about how those legs are, shaping up now. And then in the third segment, we're going to talk about the top 5 leagues. Talk about domestic league football, what's going on, which teams are kind of separating themselves in that title race, what's going on in the Europa League or Champions League races. So we're going to get into all that in that third segment. And then lastly, we're going to continue my Premier League top 10 players in each Premier League team series with the top 10 West Ham players this season. Obviously, one of the biggest surprises of the Premier League this season, and I want to get into, who's been making it happen, who has been putting their hands on this incredible season that West Ham has had so far. So we're going to get into all that in the last segment. But yeah, let's just get right to it with the Champions League talk. We had some pretty exciting games. Honestly, we had one that was like a classic game between Bayern and PSG, the two teams that took on each other in the final. And I don't know how I want to do this. Maybe I want to talk about that game in the end, because that one was just so exciting to watch. Maybe we can talk about former champions in Real Madrid and Liverpool. That sounds like a great game to get started with, so let's do just that. This was a game where, you had two teams one that has been struggling in Liverpool throughout their domestic league campaign, and another in Real Madrid that had a bit of a tough time getting started this season, but have obviously found their way. At the moment, they're top of La Liga, so they've obviously found their stride. And you go into this game without Sergio Ramos for Real Madrid. Obviously, no Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool. So, in a way, I could see it as an even matchup. You got some great players on Real Madrid's side. Guys like Kroos, Casemiro, Modric. That midfield is as good as any you'll find in the Champions League right now. And then you got that front three of Asensio, Benzema, Vinicius Jr., a couple young players with that experienced striker that, kind of puts it all together. The defense was a bit more lax. Lucas Vazquez in his new right back position. For Mendy, obviously Courtois between the sticks, kind of keeping everything organized. And you had Nacho and Militao in that center back position. And in my opinion, these are two very evenly matched teams. You have the Liverpool, who, everything is in that front three with Diego Jota getting the start with his, really good form. And then you got those two incredible wingers of Mane and Salah. That midfield, honestly, it's not as anywhere near the legendary status of that Real Madrid midfield, but you still got very solid players like Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Keita, very solid players. And then obviously the fullback position in Liverpool is as good as any you'll find, but you wouldn't think that looking at this game, because you had some very uneven performances from one Trent Alexander-Arnold. You got to wonder, what in the world was he doing in this game? He really put his team behind the 8 ball and didn't allow them to really get anything going. And when you talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's all offense. It's what he brings to that team's attack, and rarely you talk about his defense because it's just not there. It really is not that good, to be honest. Same thing with Andrew Robertson. He gives you a lot in the attack, although he's even a little bit better in defense than Alexander-Arnold. But that was where this Liverpool team was exposed in this 3-1 defeat to Real Madrid. Vinicius Jr. was doing whatever he wanted to Trent Alexander-Arnold. He was getting behind him on multiple opportunities, getting behind that back line, finding plenty of space in the box. And honestly, I'm going to say it, I think this was Vinicius Jr.'s best game as a Real Madrid player. Not statistically, just when you talk about the moment, what this game means for Real Madrid against a big team and a big club like Liverpool, for him to show up the way he did with 2 goals, and 2 big goals. The first one to get the game started, and then obviously the last one to really end it for Liverpool and to give Real Madrid a huge 3-1 advantage heading into the second leg. Obviously, I really feel where this team really wins it is in the midfield. I've said it plenty of times already. You got Casemiro's defense, Kroos with that ridiculous long ball to Vinicius Jr. for the opening goal of the game. I mean, you got to talk about Vinicius Jr.'s control of it, though. For him to be able to just on the run with his upper shoulder to just be able to put it in the perfect spot for him, where neither, I think it was Phillips and Alexander-Arnold had no chance of catching it. It was just an incredible goal from both players involved, Kroos and obviously Vinicius Jr. But man, this was just such a weird game to watch because so many times it felt like Liverpool had some opportunities, but they just played so sloppy. They're obviously a really great team with a lot of high quality players, but that first half was as bad as I've seen from Liverpool. And luckily for them, they were only down by 2 heading into the half. It could have easily been more because they were just plenty of mistakes. Even Kabak made a poor pass back to Alisson, which was almost finished off by Asensio. It was just, and that was the thing throughout this entire match. Liverpool allowing Real Madrid to get plenty of easy opportunities and not getting many of those themselves. There was a lot of defensive mistakes. I say it plenty of times whenever I talk about Liverpool that they're obviously missing Virgil van Dijk, the best center back in the entire world. He clearly cleans up a lot of these mistakes, and it's just really hard to see the way that this team is playing. It doesn't really allow, the star duo of Mane and Salah to really get anything going because they can barely hold on to the ball. They can barely keep momentum for a couple minutes at a time. It's a very poor effort from Liverpool. Even though in the start of the second half, they did look a lot better. That's how they were able to get that first goal. It was in the 51st minute. Mohamed Salah was able to score to get Liverpool at least slightly back into this leg. But then obviously that late goal, or it was the 65th minute, but Vinicius Jr. to get his goal in the wide open in the box. It was just, like I said, continuous defensive errors from Liverpool. Literally nobody marking Vinicius Jr. Nobody was even marking the man who had the ball, who passed it to him. It was just, nobody was awake for that last goal, and it allowed Real Madrid to pick up a 3-1 advantage heading into that second leg, and that obviously puts Liverpool in a very difficult position here because to be able to hold back Real Madrid from scoring goals is extremely difficult, especially this year. They've been playing very well on that end. Obviously, defensively, they haven't been like what they were last season, but I don't know if they're gonna be expecting Sergio Ramos back, but if they are, you can pretty much already call this leg over, because it's going to be even harder for Liverpool to get any open opportunities with a legendary center back like Sergio Ramos in the lineup. I'm not sure on that. I don't really haven't checked the injury report yet, but yeah, that's how this one ended, and it's going to be a very tough hill to climb for Liverpool to get back into this leg. But it's always possible. I mean, they did get that away goal, so technically they only need to score 2 goals and keep Real Madrid, like I said, to 0. They got to hold on to a clean sheet, and you can look at it both ways. Liverpool, to hold a team to a clean sheet has been very hard to get this year, and then Real Madrid, for them to not score a goal, I mean, they've been one of the best attacking teams in history. Obviously, things are a little bit different with no Cristiano Ronaldo. They've been in a little bit of a transition period trying to figure out what type of team they are. But I'm feeling very confident in this Real Madrid team. So next, let's talk about Man City versus Borussia Dortmund. And this game was actually really interesting. I mean, you had both these teams going back and forth on it. There were some good signs from Borussia Dortmund early on in this game, but they just couldn't capitalize on them, and they would obviously hurt them in the end since they lost this game 2-1, which in the end isn't an insurmountable deficit, but against a team like Man City, and yes, this was a home game for Man City, so Dortmund did get that away goal, so now they're going to go back home to Dortmund and try to do the impossible here, because I guarantee you, even with Haaland, some very solid young players, nobody is expecting Dortmund to really get past Man City in this leg. Nobody. So they certainly have an opportunity here. But to hold and to be able to, on top of that, to be able to get a goal on Man City in this game, the team that has been probably the best defensive team in the entire world this year, is a huge accomplishment and gives them a definite leg up going into the second leg. But to allow Man City to get an equalizer 6 minutes after you score the first, your first goal of the game in the 84th minute, to allow such a late goal from Man City obviously hurts them. It puts them in a more difficult situation than they would have been. They could have easily focused more on the defensive end. Now they need to get that goal in order to move on to the semifinal. But quickly, I want to talk about Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, what a king this man is. I mean, he can literally do it all on the floor, on the field. He can literally control an entire game by himself. His ability to pass the ball is obviously second to none in the entire world. But then you talk about, his dribbling ability, which doesn't get a lot of talk. His scoring ability, which obviously he prefers to get his teammates involved. But he's got the ability to score goals in numerous ways. Like, you want him an outside the box, rocket, he can do that. I mean, he doesn't do it as much because he has the IQ to know that there are better opportunities out there than for him to just launch one from the outside. And that's one of the things I love the most about Kevin De Bruyne is his IQ, his ability to know what is needed in certain situations. And for that opening goal for Man City, it was all Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, a poor error from Emre Can to really start that counter for Man City, but for De Bruyne to get that ball and then just quickly, blow past one of the Borussia Dortmund's defenders, continue to move up, hold the ball until the very last moment to find Phil Foden driving into the box. And then obviously Phil Foden made a poor pass, which was saved by Riyad Mahrez, and then found De Bruyne right back because he didn't stop moving. He continued to move into the box, get into the right position so that he was open for Riyad Mahrez, and he scored the opening goal for Man City. Literally did everything for them in that opening goal. And if anyone wants any chance of stopping Man City, that's the key. Making sure that De Bruyne does not do whatever he wants on the field. But obviously, that's a lot easier said than done because that man is as good as they get in soccer nowadays. I mean, the man is an absolute monster. There's no other way to put it. He can literally do it all on the field, and Man City are certainly extremely lucky to have him. And another guy I got to talk about is Phil Foden. I mean, he had a lot of opportunities in this game, and it just wasn't going through for him. He had opportunities. and they didn't. It kind of felt like he was having one of those, like, games that just will get forgotten. But then late in the game, he still gets one last opportunity with the games tied 1-1 to give Man City a very much needed 2-1 lead going into the second leg, and he does it. Very calm finish, and of course, this is first set up by De Bruyne finding Gundogan with a perfect cross into the box. Gundogan finds Phil Foden pretty much right next to him, which he then finishes for the 2-1 lead. And it's just, the kid is a talent, man. 20 years old, and Phil Foden has a bright future ahead of him. I can't wait to see what's in store for him. And then on the Dortmund side, there were some flashes of very solid play, especially in the second half. They were really giving it to Man City and making things difficult for them. But all in all, they just couldn't do it consistently and get many open opportunities against this Man City defense. It's been locked down for most of this year, and obviously it's all because of John Stones and Ruben Diaz really getting that back line as organized as it has been probably in their history. And then, of course, you got to talk about Ederson as well. The man has really come back with a vengeance this season and has been one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I gotta admit it, after really not giving him his due last season, because it wasn't the same Ederson that we saw in recent years. He has really come back strong this year. But I also on the Dortmund side, I want to talk about Haaland. I've always said this about him whenever I talk about the Bundesliga and I get into Dortmund, that he is a superstar. The man is 20 years old and literally doing things that I would not expect a guy his size to do. You expect the strength, but there was like this one opportunity early on in that second half where the ball was put ahead of him. I forgot who was the player. I think it was Royce, but I'm not 100% sure on it. But someone passed it to him up, and there was a defender. I think it was John Stones that was ahead of him on that play. He literally blew right past him. There was this tweet that was put out that said he ran like a 36.05 kilometers per hour, which is with incredible stuff from a man his size. The guy is a world-class talent, and just 20 years old, for him to be that good with his finishing, his athleticism, everything that you can ask for from a striker, he's got. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to be one of the best strikers in the world, if not the best striker in the world, sooner rather than later. But he just wasn't able to finish that run. He got past John Stones, was able to get some control of the ball, but not enough to really put it past Ederson. Ederson did really well to get off his line and really put pressure on Haaland when he got close into the box. But so in the end, Man City did what they had to do, got that 2-1 victory heading into the second leg. And it's going to be another really exciting game because this one certainly had everything in it. All the stars showing out, Haaland. Oh, and I didn't even say Haaland giving that beautiful pass to Marco Reus in the 84th minute for him to score the first goal for Dortmund. Huge pass from him and a great finish from Marco Reus. And Ederson even almost saved it, but he didn't get enough on it to really push it wide. But yeah, man, this is going to be a very exciting second leg. I still expect Man City to go on, but Dortmund are not going down without a fight. Now let's talk about Chelsea versus Porto. This had some exciting stuff going on in it because despite Porto losing 2-0, there were certainly opportunities for Porto to make this a game. And Chelsea really didn't have as many. Porto had twice as many shots as Chelsea had, 6-12 in favor of Porto, of course. The possession was certainly in Chelsea's favor, but Porto were getting their opportunities. They had more shots on target as well, and they just were a little bit sloppy when it came to controlling the ball. And it gave Chelsea those opportunities to really get ahead and take advantage of this leg. And I got to speak about that first goal from Mason Mount. What a goal. A really solid pass from Jorginho. Poor defending from Porto. I forgot who it was, but to slide when he thinks he has a chance at the ball, for sure that pass had a little bit more pace on it than maybe he expected. But the turn from Mason Mount and then the score, it was all as beautiful as they come. That touch for him to put it just ahead of him as he turns the ball, as he turns his body to go into the box, it was all as good as it can possibly get from Mason Mount. I mean, an incredible talent he is. Another young England player showing his ridiculous talent now, and that's what opened up the scoring for Chelsea in the 32nd minute. And then Porto throughout the entire game, were getting opportunities. They just, in my opinion, it just wasn't clear-cut chances. Like, they were certainly putting pressure on Mendy in between the sticks, but it just wasn't like a clear chance where they were just, they always had a Chelsea player around them, making things a little bit difficult so they couldn't get a clean hit on the ball. And that kind of was the game here. Like, Porto got their chances, but Chelsea continued to play tough, and their defense was actually pretty solid in this game. And, of course, you got to talk about that last goal, because it all had to be because of Jesus Correa's terrible error to try to control the ball, put it too far away from him, and it allowed Ben Chilwell to just take the ball away from him. And they were already in pretty much the final third of Porto's side, and he got all the way through past, dribbled it right past the goalkeeper for easily his best goal in a Chelsea uniform. And his best, I don't want to say best game overall, because he's had some pretty decent performances for Chelsea, but obviously, like, in the moment, in this opportunity here for Chelsea to get into a semi-final of the Champions League, this was a great opportunity for them, and a great goal from Chilwell. You got to give it to him. It was a really beautifully taken goal, and yeah, Chelsea move into the second leg with a 2-0 advantage, and these two goals were away goals. They were away from home, and they took advantage of it. And now Porto have a huge hill to climb. They gotta get at least 2 goals, hold Chelsea to nothing, and see what happens from there. I don't see it happening. Even though Porto did have their opportunities, and Chelsea's defense, though it's been better under Tuchel, it still has its holes, and I can feel Porto getting their opportunities in the second leg. But can they do enough to really hold Chelsea to a clean sheet? I don't think so. So I certainly see Chelsea moving on to the next leg. And now we're going to be talking about the most exciting game from this quarterfinal. It's the two finalists from last season. You have PSG versus Bayern Munich. And this was an incredibly snowy game. I mean, there was snow falling from the onset and throughout and it got worse as the game was going on. And I gotta say, Mbappe. I mean, the kid is a giant. I don't really know how else to put it. I mean, I wish, because I'm a huge PSG fan, you guys know this, and I wish I didn't have to pay for beIN Sports in order to be able to watch those Ligue 1 games so I can see him just, I don't know, man, just his legendary career in the making. It's hard. There is no denying that this kid has everything you need in a superstar. I mean, the pace, his control, his passing ability, his finishing. I don't see him as a clear-cut number 9. I just don't see it. I don't see... obviously, the finishing ability is there, but I think his pace and his dribbling certainly has him more clear as a winger, which is where he's used here. I mean, they obviously put... what was this lineup here for them? They had... they actually had Mbappe as the number 9, and then they had Draxler, Di Maria on the wings, Neymar in the middle, as always, which I gotta say, man, Neymar's playmaking was an incredible game changer. Same thing for Kimmich on the Bayern Munich side, because this game ended 3-2 in favor of PSG, so this wasn't a dominating performance either way, even though PSG looked very good early on, but then allowed Bayern to kind of like pick up the pace. But that early goal, I mean, Mbappe kind of hit Neuer on the way in. Neuer kind of guessed the wrong way, and it allowed the goal to go in. But it was a perfect combination of Di Maria, Neymar, and then to Mbappe to kind of get that opening goal for PSG. Huge, huge start to the game for them. Great confidence booster, because, obviously, like, PSG has had some crazy, some big-time blunders, but they certainly look like a different team, man. I can't deny that. And it's hard to hold Bayern to, one goal, even a clean sheet. That kind of seems impossible nowadays, because Bayern has probably the best attack in the entire world this season. Just anybody can get it going on any given night, and this is a perfect example. Choupo-Moting, one of my favorite players in the world, just, showed up in this game. He had a lot of good opportunities, hit the post on a couple of them, was able to get the equalizer. He was able to bring Bayern within one before halftime with a very solid header. And he's a pretty solid presence in the box and is a very good replacement for Lewandowski. Obviously, he's not going to replace the skill sets of Lewandowski. Nobody can do that in this world. But to be a very solid player off the bench, Bayern are extremely smart to be able to sign him and bring him in as one of those pieces. And he showed it in this game to get a goal. Almost had a couple goals in this game. He could have easily had a brace here. But I mean, man, that second goal from Marquinhos, the pass from Neymar as Bayern's high back line finally causes them to pay, gets them to pay in a European competition, because they've always had a high back line. And yes, their defense is not what it was last season. In the Bundesliga, they've given up a lot of goals. But when it comes to Champions League, these European competitions, they have rarely had to, they've rarely had to pay for their mistakes of allowing a player to get behind them. They've always been able to overcome that because Neuer kind of saves them, or they kind of make up for it, kind of getting back. But in this one, they were after a failed cross or after a failed corner kick. PSG, it kind of looks like they're retreating. Neymar has the back and has the ball in open space, kind of close to half court, and maybe not really the half field mark, but he was kind of heading back, and all the Bayern players were moving up, get that high line up, but then perfectly placed pass by Neymar set up Marquinhos, who was able to just stay onside, and a beautiful control and a beautiful finish for Marquinhos. Unfortunately, he picked up a groin injury in that instance and had to come off, but regardless, it was a beautiful goal to give PSG a 2-0 lead, a commanding lead in this first leg. And but of course, Bayern weren't going to go down without a swing, man. And they came back, got 2 goals after that. A very solid header from both Choupo-Moting and Thomas Müller, both set up by Joshua Kimmich. Actually, I recently found out that it's Joshua Kimmich, and I don't know, I just love that, the way that sounds. But yeah, man, his crossing was on point all game long, was setting up Bayern players left and right. He was the guy who was, with the corner kicks, the free kicks, whatever you wanted, he was setting up his teammates and was really making things difficult for PSG. And when PSG got that third goal of the night from Kylian Mbappe, which, by the way, was immaculate. I mean, the way the guy was able to just, fake out Boateng once, twice. Boateng was scared to really challenge Mbappe, because he knew if he did, Mbappe was going to blow right past him. So he kept on backing up until Mbappe scored right between his legs. Perfect goal to give PSG a commanding 3-2 lead in the first leg. And that's 3 away goals, man. So that really gives them a huge opportunity to move on to the semifinal. And I do not think this leg is over by any stretch, by any sense of the word. I mean, there's just no way Bayern Munich is just going to, lay down. They're going to come back with a huge fight in this second leg, and it's going to make it difficult. I really don't know which way to go. I mean, if Lewandowski plays in the second leg, I don't think he will. But if he does, that certainly is going to make things a lot more difficult for PSG. And we're just going to have to wait and see, man. But it's going to be a very, very exciting game to watch. You're going to have all the stars playing. Hopefully you see Lewandowski, because I want to take on Bayern at their greatest. So I want to give the edge to PSG. I really, really, really do. But something tells me that Bayern is just going to come, guns blazing and is going to really give it to PSG. So, but I can easily see this game going to extra time. Like, I would not be surprised if at the final score it's 3-2 in Bayern's favor. We go to extra time, and at that point anything could happen. So I really don't even want to say who's going to win or lose on this one, because I don't want to jinx PSG, and I don't want to give Bayern any more support than they actually need. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, we're going to talk about the Europa League in its entirety right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Champions League quarterfinal first legs. We went over each of the games. I gave my quick thoughts on how they went and just gave a quick, I don't want to say prediction, but just my thoughts on who I believe has the best chance of moving on into the semi-final of the Champions League. And now we're going to be talking about the Europa League, who are also in their quarterfinals. They just finished their first legs. We have the second legs coming up later this week. And I want to talk about the game, see who is looking pretty good heading into that second leg and the chance to go into the semifinal. We had some pretty interesting matchups, some big-time clubs going up, not going up against each other, but taking on their competition. We had Arsenal versus Slavia Prague. We had Manchester United versus Granada. That's actually the game I was looking... Well, no, sorry. It's Roma versus Ajax. That's obviously the big-time game that we had going on this past Thursday. And then we had Villarreal versus Dinamo Zagreb. A lot of interesting games. A lot of games that went down to the wire. The only one that I saw that was pretty one-sided was the Manchester United versus Granada match. And even then, Granada were looking pretty good against Manchester United. So first I want to get into probably the one that was the least exciting, which was Villarreal versus Dinamo Zagreb. A lot of defense both ways. Both teams had some opportunities. Villarreal looked a lot better in this game than Zagreb did. It was just that they were not capitalizing on their opportunities. And honestly, a lot of it had to do with Dynamo really, getting gritty on the defensive end and getting in the way, having multiple players in the way of Villarreal, attackers having a chance at goal. And in the end, Villarreal did have more shots, but had less shots on target. So in the end, they had 14 shots, 3 on target, while Dynamo had 11 shots and 4 on target. But possession was heavily in Villarreal's favor. They had a lot of possession of the ball. The pressure on Dynamo were certainly making things difficult for them to get into a rhythm and get a lot of opportunities at goal. But man, a lot of the time it felt like there could have been an extra, like at least for Dynamo's side, there could have been an extra pass that would be made to get a better look, but a lot of these players were just kind of taking these shots from outside the box, shots that really had no chance of going in. And that's what happened with a lot of those shots on target. Like, it really gave, I believe it's Paul Lopez, right? No, my bad, Rulli, the Argentinian goalkeeper, pretty much nothing really to work with in this game. He didn't really have to make any crazy saves. A lot of it was, the strong defensive play of Villarreal. Guys like Pau Torres, Albiol, Foyth, Capue. They were all, I probably, butchered his name there, but, a lot of them played great defense in this game. Of course, for the attack on the Villarreal side, Moreno was doing his thing as he has been doing for Villarreal for a long time now. He has been in great form, and he continued that form today with the only goal in the game with a penalty right before half. It was a poor what I'm trying to say, foul that led to the penalty by Dynamo. It was unnecessary, and it really just allowed Villarreal to get an easy shot on goal. And of course, Moreno is going to put those away. He's been the penalty kick taker for Villarreal this whole season, and he's really been dominating for them. And to give Villarreal that opportunity right before the half was just a poor execution. And so with Moreno getting that opportunity, and honestly throughout that second half, it really felt like it was all Villarreal. They just really, like I said in the beginning, didn't take advantage of those opportunities. They really, would, I don't know how to explain it. They just wouldn't really execute that well. I guess that's the best way I can put it. They wouldn't execute well. They got into those opportunities, but then, a missed pass here, kind of a hesitation on the shot there would allow Dynamo to kind of get in the way and really make things difficult for them. So, in the end, Villarreal are able to, get away with this 1-0 victory, and it was an away victory, so they do have that advantage going into the second leg. They do have the best player in this, and I would even say the best two players, because I even like Danny Parejo in the midfield for Villarreal over anybody that Dynamo has, unless I'm, not, because I'm not well versed in anything Dynamo football. So maybe if you guys want to correct me on that, I think they have the two best players, even maybe the three best players, because even Pau Torres is a very good center back, and that the Spanish center back, gives them a lot of great stuff off, in that starting lineup. Even Paco Alcacer, when he came off the bench. He gave a really good presence, even though he couldn't really get a good shot on goal. A lot of missed opportunities from him. I still feel like he is a more dangerous threat than anything anyone else on Dynamo can offer. Like Atimwen, the striker for Dynamo, whenever he got those opportunities to score, he really floundered on them. He just didn't really put a good foot on the ball, and most of the time it just ended in Ruli's feet or in Ruli's hands. So. Obviously, man of the match has to go to Gerard Moreno. He was setting up teammates throughout the entire game, getting them opportunities, scored on the only goal in this game, and Villarreal looked very solid going into the second leg. Of course, this is far from over because it is only one goal, so we have to wait to see. I mean, Dynamo didn't look outmatched in any way. I mean, even though Villarreal should have played much better than they did here, and I'm sure that they have better in them going into the second leg. So I do expect Villarreal to move on, especially since they got this advantage going into that second leg. For the next game, we're going to talk about Arsenal versus Slavia Praha, or Slavia Prague, my apologies. And this game was a lot of back and forth, but with no real threats throughout this entire game. Arsenal had their opportunities. I mean, they had about the same amount of shots. 11 shots for Arsenal, 10 for Slavia Prague. But Slavia Prague were actually more efficient with those looks. They had 4 shots on target compared to only 2 for Arsenal. And that was most of this game. A lot of these, both of these clubs, like, getting opportunities inside the box, like, even outside the box. They had some decent shots, but they were just inefficient. They didn't bring the shooting boots on this one. And Arsenal, it really felt like this was going to be one of those games that Arsenal it would be a goalless draw, a missed opportunity until, they made some solid substitutions. Aubameyang got brought on for Lacazette, who had a decent game, but, man, just so many missed chances to score goals. There was one where it was an easy counterattack. Him and the goalkeeper, he had gotten behind that back line and was by himself. He shoots it not wide, it hits the post, but man, like, he could have easily done an easier shot, not have to go so wide with it, but he hits the post, and it was a huge missed opportunity for Arsenal to get a lead in that second half. Slavia Prague, it was kind of the same thing. They also didn't really get much going throughout this game. You can give a little bit of credit to the defense, although there were chances, there were times when the Arsenal defense was also very slack, very, very slack. They just would get caught behind. Slavia Prague would have an open lane into the box. They just didn't make the right decisions when it really mattered, and that's why this game ended up being a 1-1 draw. And it was a dramatic 1-1 draw because with the substitutions that Arsenal made really made a difference. Pepe came in, Lacazette, Aubameyang came in, and those two actually combined for the first goal of the game late. It was like 86th minute. Yeah, 86th minute where Aubameyang did a sliding pass to a sliding through ball pass to find Pepe on the run. Beautiful pass from Aubameyang. It wasn't really talked about enough, but he found Pepe like in stride. There was a defender on him from Slavia Prague, but he was able to really get by him, and a perfect touch from Pepe to get that goal for Arsenal, to give them a 1-0 lead. And the worst part, and the thing about this was a home game for Arsenal, so it really didn't make that much a difference for them as long as they were able to hold on to a 1-0 victory. But as soon as that goal went in, something changed in Slavia Prague. They were way more aggressive, and most of their shots on goal were at the end of this game. It forced Leno to really have to flip a switch and make some crazy saves, but it was not enough because Arsenal just the defense there is just a big mess, especially in set pieces. They kind of don't seem to know what they have to do in order to get the ball out of their final third, and it cost them in this game. 94th minute goal or 93rd minute goal from Thomas Holz to give Slavia Praha an incredibly important away goal here to make it 1-1 and give them an advantage heading into that second leg. So you look at this game and it's just a poor execution from Arsenal throughout the game. They should have had a goal. They have more quality. They had most of their top players playing. They had Saka, Smith Rowe, Willian, Lacazette, Xhaka, Thomas Partey. They had so many of their best players playing in this game. Almost their starting 11. Obviously Aubameyang's kind of been a little inconsistent this season, dealing with, some troubles off the field. And I feel like that inconsistency from having your best player out there, it has certainly hurt their stride, especially, with the way they were playing in the Premier League for a few weeks. They looked like they had finally gotten their, act together. And with this performance, it's certainly not what they were expecting coming in. I would say out of all the matchups, they probably got the easiest one with Slavia Prague, and they did not take advantage of it. And now they're in, it's 1-1, but obviously if this were to stay, goalless in the second leg, it's Slavia Prague moving on to the semifinal. So you need to see a much more engaged and better Arsenal team in that second leg if they want any chance of moving on. And they absolutely should move on. This would be a huge fail and a complete disappointment of a season if they are to lose here in the quarterfinal to a team that is much less than them. What does I say? Much lesser? No, that doesn't sound right. But you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that's what's going on there. I honestly don't have much faith in Arsenal here. They just look so sloppy in that first leg. Slavia Prague also looks sloppy, but But when it really mattered, they were able to turn, to flip the switch and really put all the pressure on Arsenal. I feel like that's going to be there for the entire game in the second leg from Slavia Prague. And I think they're going to move on to the semifinal, and it's going to be one of the more disappointing seasons in Arsenal history. Next, let's go to the Manchester United versus Granada game. And if you guys have been listening to me here, I'm always rooting for Granada, but obviously this is a very overwhelming tie against Manchester United, the team that is, said to be the favorites to win this Europa League title. And they proved it throughout this game. They had all the momentum, pretty much throughout this entire game. Granada had their opportunities to score. They had only 2 less shots, and pretty much the same amount of shots on target throughout this game. So it's not that they didn't have the opportunities, but it's more of the amount of chances that Manchester United had, it just felt more consistent throughout the entire game. Granada, it wasn't there as much, even though obviously when you look at the stats, it's more even. Man United pretty much dominated in possession. It was all them. They were just pressuring Granada throughout this entire game. And honestly, I'm surprised it's only 2 goals for Manchester United. Even though that first one was absolutely beautiful, set up perfectly by Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford controlling it perfectly going into the final third of Granada and then slotting it past the goalkeeper. I mean, what an incredible goal from Marcus Rashford. And I mean, you got to give credit to Maguire. I mean, there was no pressure on him, which I don't understand why. He was just continuously bringing the ball up the field, almost got to the half-field line before anyone was thinking, let me try to put some pressure on him. And he delivered a beautiful pass, a pinpoint pass to Marcus Rashford. And I mean, Rashford, growing into the player he's become, is going to finish that. And he did so beautifully, giving Manchester United an opening goal in the first half. And really, the defense of Manchester United was pretty solid throughout the entire game. Like I said, they did allow Granada to have a few opportunities, but for the most part, it never really felt like Granada were threatening Manchester United at any point throughout this game. And when you looked at the way that the momentum in the second half was going, you knew Manchester United were going to be adding another goal. I didn't expect it to be a penalty, even though Manchester United are known for drawing a lot of penalties. I think I'm going to say that they're probably the team that has scored the most penalties in Europe over the past 2 seasons, and I don't think I'm wrong on that. But Bruno Fernandes, of course, scores another goal for them. I think it's like his 24th goal of the season, having an incredible year from him. And he scores a penalty in the 90th minute to really put this game away. And that's 2 away goals for Manchester United. So a huge hill to climb for Granada in the second leg. Don't expect it to happen. I do expect them to put up a bigger fight in the second leg, maybe even get a goal and make things a little bit tight. I wouldn't be surprised if they scored the first goal of the game, because Manchester United is known for letting their foot off the gas pedal when it seems that they have their, this in lock, which a lot of people are going to expect them to pretty much move on to the semifinal now, especially with a big advantage heading into the second leg. But do not be surprised if Granada make it a fight and, have a chance to move on. I just don't think it's going to ultimately happen. I see Manchester United moving on to the second leg. So, next and last, of course, we're going to talk about the best game in the quarterfinal. Roma versus Ajax. 2 big-time clubs. I would say this is a super even matchup here. Roma have been kind of inconsistent throughout the season. Their attack has been electric throughout the year, but their defense has taken a huge step back from last year. And for Ajax, as always, they're as consistent as they come. Always being among the best teams from the Netherlands, and if not the best team from the Netherlands, and always having some, high-level quality on their roster. And for me, it all starts with Tadic for them. I mean, the man creates everything. He can score goals on his own, create for himself, create for others, and I just love the way he plays. And he can unlock so many things for Ajax. The only thing is that he needs his other teammates to really finish the job for him. And in this game, it really did not happen. Although Ajax did get the scoring started from a goal from Davy Klaassen, of course, set up by Tadic. Who else? And it looked like Ajax had most of the momentum, especially since it came off a Roma error pass. I don't remember who it was. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Diawara. He was the one that made the passing error backwards to, I believe he thought it was going to be Cristante who was going to pick it up, but it never happened. He was kind of caught in the middle, and Klaassen really took charge of it, passed it to Tadic, and then the IQ of Tadic to pass it back instead of going for goal. That's what I love so much about Tadic, is that he sees the whole situation. He doesn't just think, I'm getting the ball in the box, I got to go for a score. He passes it right back to Klaassen for an easy tap-in to give Ajax the opening goal of the game, and a lot of momentum in that first half. They wouldn't score again in the entire game because from that point on, it was literally all Roma. They had all the momentum. They were literally, doing whatever they wanted on the field, and they didn't have the possession. They only had 35% possession this entire game, and even shots were heavily in Ajax's favor. 15 shots, 9 on target for Ajax, 7 shots, only 4 on target for Roma, but they made those opportunities count, especially in the second half. Pellegrini, you got to feel for the goalkeeper of Ajax. I don't know how to say his name, but I'm going to just try it. Scherpen. It was his European debut, and you could tell that he was a little bit overwhelmed when it came to certain opportunities. And there was a free kick that was easily savable by him, but it goes right through his hands and into the goal. I mean, it's such a bad way to start off your debut, allowing that kind of goal. But it was well hit by Pellegrini. I mean, it was a well hit goal, but regardless, it should have been saved. It should have still been 1-0 Ajax, but that equalized it. And throughout that second half, the momentum had shifted into Roma's favor. But you were still expecting Ajax to really keep this close and not really allow it to get out of hand for them. But they weren't able to keep Roma out of their final third. And eventually it felt like Roma were going to get that second goal. And that is exactly what happened with an incredible goal from Ibanez just to take it off his chest. It was poorly cleared by Klaassen. I mean, he pretty much put it right on a platter for Ibanez. But for him to take it off his chest and then one-time it right past the goalkeeper, nobody had a chance to save that. I'm sorry, I don't care who's in front of goal there. Nobody's saving that rocket from Ibanez to give Roma a 2-1 lead, 2 away goals on top of that. So a huge, huge advantage heading into that second leg. But honestly, I think I'm still going to side with Ajax. I mean, they played great in this game, even though they allowed Roma to get a few goals here and there to really put it away. I don't expect this to be the way it goes in the second leg. I see Ajax really putting it on Roma and scoring 2 goals, and maybe it ends 2-1 in the second leg and it goes to extra time. But in the end, I feel like Ajax are going to take advantage here and really, put it on Roma and move on to the semifinal. That's going to be my prediction there. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to talk about the top 5 leagues in the world as we near closer and closer to the end of the season. Right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we went over the Europa League quarterfinals. We had some very interesting games going on. We had a big time matchup between 2 exciting clubs in Roma and Ajax, and I went through all of it in that last segment. If you guys want to go and check that out, please go and do so. But now we're going to be talking about the top 5 leagues. Yes, we are getting into domestic league football. We got about 7 games left, 6 to 7 games left in each league, so this is coming down to the wire. There are still some titles up for grabs, and we're going to be getting into all that in this segment. So let's just get started with, of course, the Premier League, the league I cover the most of all of the top 5, and this was another very exciting week in terms of when you're looking at the standings. Man City dropping some more points, losing to Leeds United 2-1. I mean, such a dramatic game because Leeds United started this game off extremely well, scored, not dominating the first half, but really going toe-to-toe with Man City, despite Man City having most of the possession, most of the shots. I mean, you look at the shot disparity, 29 shots for Man City to only 2 for Leeds United, both of those shots were goals for Leeds United. So they were able to pretty much win this game by the skin of their teeth. It was very, very exciting, especially when you consider Stuart Dallas getting a brace in this game, first in the first half, in the 42nd minute, and then trouble hits for Leeds United. They get a red card in right before halftime hits for Liam Cooper, and you're thinking, okay, that's Man City is going to come out with a new fire, under them, and it's going to just dominate that second half. And in a way, it did. They were pretty much doing whatever they wanted in that second half. We're dominating possession. We're putting so much pressure on Leeds United. We're not letting them do anything that they wanted. And you would have expected a goal to come much earlier than it did, but still, Ferran Torres was able to score the equalizer in the 76th minute. And there was still a lot of time left. So you feel at this point, there's no way that Man City is losing this game. Maybe a draw, especially with how Leeds United has at least been able to hold on here and hold. Man City only had 7 shots on target of those 29, so they still were at least making things a little difficult with those shots. But then the most unlikely thing happened with Stuart Dallas scoring an extra time goal to give Leeds United a huge 2-1 victory over the possible title winners here. And that's a big result there, because Leeds United, they've now won 3 in a row. So they've been playing much better of late. It puts them in the top half of the league. And yes, despite, some excitement early on in the season, yes, they hit that rut, and it's kind of kept them in a mid-table position. But you got to love what you're seeing from Leeds United, the fight, the ability to stay in a game when the odds are so heavily stacked against you. And that's what you got here in this game with a 2-1 victory over Man City, who have been as dominant as any team you could see in Europe right now, at least domestically, and to score 2 goals on them as well against this, like I've said countless times, the best defensive team in Europe. It was a very, very impressive win, and a tough loss for Man City, a big-time opportunity missed here, because with a win here, I don't know the math on this, but they're pretty close to clinching the title anytime now. But a loss here and a win for Manchester United, and a big one at that, with 3 goals scored in the second half to give them a 3-1 victory over Tottenham. The first half, in my opinion, was all Tottenham. They were doing everything that they needed to do to put themselves in the position to win, and they even got a goal from Son Heung-min in the 40th minute to give them a nice lead going into the half and be rewarded for that strong play in that first half. However, the second half was literally on Manchester United. It started off with a goal by Fred in the 57th minute, then Edison Cavani took the lead with a 79th minute goal, and then just a little cherry on top for Man United, Mason Greenwood scored literally in the last seconds of the game to really show the kind of dominant outing that Manchester United had here. And you can't really think about that first half. That first half was atrocious from Manchester United. They really did not get into any sort of rhythm. They allowed Tottenham to do whatever they wanted. But that second half, they certainly woke up and took advantage of that game. So getting that win there was huge for them. They now stand, 11 points behind Man City with 1 game in hand. So I'm not expecting this to be one of the most dramatic comebacks in Premier League history. I don't see it happening, but it still makes it a little bit more interesting. Not just they already won the title, but you look at the Champions League run, like the Champions League race here. You got Leicester City at 56. They've kind of already gotten a little separated from Man United between second and third place with 2 losses in a row. And then you got West Ham, who just had a huge win against Leicester City, a 3-2 victory against them, a brace from Jesse Lingard, another goal from Jared Bowen, huge from West Ham. And of course, the man who has been in such incredible form for Leicester City, Iheanacho, scores a brace as well in the second half to make it at least a little interesting. But yeah, by that second goal in the 91st minute, it was too little too late for Leicester City. Huge win for West Ham to get even closer to that third spot. They're only 1 point behind Leicester City for third place. They're a point ahead of Chelsea for 5th. And Chelsea took care of business as well, getting a 4-1 win over Crystal Palace, getting a goal from Kai Havertz, 2 from Christian Pulisic. Always love to see that because, you know, he's had such inconsistencies this season. It's nice to see Thomas Tuchel putting him out there and him reward Tuchel with some great play in this one. And even Kurt Zuma got on the scoring column. Benteke scored in the second half to, you know, a little consolation prize, but at that point it was already over. Liverpool got a win as well, a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. You got a goal from Salah, from Trent Alexander-Arnold, kind of to make up for a terrible performance in the Champions League this past week. And they were able to pick up all 3 points to stay in the fight for one of those final European spots. They're 2 points behind Chelsea for the 5th spot, the Europa League spot, and 3 points behind West Ham. But, man, I just cannot be more impressed from what I've seen from West Ham. 3 wins and a draw in their last 5 games. You know, they hit a little bit of a stretch where they weren't performing at the level that they were hoping for. But they've still been able to hold on to one of those top spots. Like, there was a time there where they fell down to, I think it was like 6th or 7th place. And it kind of looked like, at least I'm sure many people were expecting, here come the wheels are kind of falling off for them. It's not going to hold on. They're going to eventually fall out of the top 5. But then they come back with 2 straight wins and a draw in their last 3 and are securing themselves in that 4th spot. It would be absolutely incredible if they were able to hold on and claim a Champions League spot. First time in organization's history. So that is a huge story to follow. And we go and look at anything else. Wolves beat Fulham 1-0. Nothing crazy there. Arsenal were able to defeat Sheffield United 3-0. Got a brace from Alexander Lacazette, who's been playing great for them in the absence of Aubameyang with his struggles off the field and all that. And Gabriel Martinelli, the Brazilian wonder boy, man, scores as well in the 71st minute to make it 3-0 for Arsenal. And it's not really a big win because, again, it's against Sheffield United, who has by far been the worst team in the league this year. But still, they got to take them when they can get them. And yeah, they got that victory. So big stuff going on in the Premier League. Still feel that title race is all but done. But still, you get some really good games this week. If you guys enjoy that Premier League soccer, you certainly enjoyed this weekend. Next, let's move on to the Bundesliga, where we also had some very exciting games. First, to start off with the title leaders right now, Bayern Munich, dropping points this week to Union Berlin. Huge game from Union Berlin to be able to, stay toe-to-toe with Bayern Munich. Bayern obviously had more possession, as they usually do, and also had most of the shots, but their shooting just was not there. Only had 2 shots on target of their 14 shots. Union Berlin were holding on for most of the game, but then give up the draw to in a 68th minute goal from Jamal Musiala, which gives Bayern that lead. And then you would, a lot of the time when you're really trying to hold for a draw there and you give up a lead, give up that, goal late, it's easy to hang your heads and not have the same intensity. Union Berlin were the exact opposite of that, scoring in the 85th minute to equalize and give Bayern their first losing points in a while now. I think they had like 5 or 6 wins in a row in the Bundesliga. And that's a big that's a big draw for Union Berlin. I mean, even though I don't expect them to fight for one of those for the Europa League spot, even though they are only 6 points behind Dortmund, I think that's too insurmountable of a deficit there for them to make up in only 6 games left. Yeah, or even 5 games left now, because this was technically the 6th game left of the season. So. And you look at the other games, Dortmund, big win against Stuttgart, 3-2. They got a goal from Jude Bellingham, Marco Reus, and Ansgar Knopf. And a late goal from Knopf after Stuttgart tied it up in the 78th minute. Ansgar scores in the 80th minute to give Dortmund that lead. It's honestly the first time that Haaland didn't have to absolutely take over for Dortmund to win the game. So I guess that's a good sign for them, and it keeps them in that 5th spot for a Europa League, play. Even though any chance of them hitting a Champions League spot, in my opinion, kind of went away after they lost to Frankfurt last week. So, and then you also look at what Frankfurt did this week. This was a game between 2 of the most surprising teams this season. Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. And Frankfurt came out on top with goals from 4 different players: Kamara, Luka Jovic, Andre Silva, and Eric Durm. And of course, you got Wolfsburg getting a goal from Baku, Weghorst, and then there was even an own goal late in the game, which kind of made it interesting, made it 4-3 instead of 4-2. But man, it was just Frankfurt and their electric attack. Even though Wolfsburg had most of the momentum throughout this game, it was Eintracht Frankfurt who took advantage of their opportunities. They got a goal from Jovic, and Andre Silva, their 2 main strikers. And man, it's incredible what you're seeing from Silva this year. The guy has, 23 goals now, or 22 goals, the second best striker in the Bundesliga, and just solidifying himself as one of the best strikers in the world this year. And then you also got to look at the other team that's fighting for the title, RB Leipzig, taking care of business against Werder Bremen. A brace from Alexander Storloth, who's really just kind of found his rhythm as the season has gone along and has been a huge factor for this team. Danny Olmo as well, and Marcel Sabitzer, all big-time goal scorers for this team as they cruise to a 4-1 victory over Werder Bremen. And you look at the standings, right now, RB Leipzig only 5 points behind Bayern Munich. Again, I'm not expecting that to really make a difference because Bayern Munich will drop a point here and there, but for the most part, they can easily go on a 5-game win streak now and just end the whole season. They do have some tough matchups, though. They take on Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, Mönchengladbach, and I guess that's about it because SC Freiburg has been really inconsistent this season. But they do have 3 games there that are going to be tough. They're not going to be easy wins to lead into the end of the season. So I am very excited to see how this season's going to wrap up in the Bundesliga. I still expect Bayern to finish it up, but anything can really happen. So now let's move on to Serie A, where we got pretty much what we've been seeing all year long. Inter Milan just continued to dominate. They defeated Cagliari 1-0. Got a goal from Matteo Darmian, and it's just been like this all season long. I mean, AC Milan did have a lot of the lead for most of this season, but Inter Milan were always right there, kind of being that team that was a thorn in AC Milan's side, just always getting a win. And then once they got that derby win against AC Milan, it was pretty much over from that point on. AC Milan continued to drop points. They do got 3 wins and a draw in their last 5 games, but Inter Milan just cannot stop losing, and they have now built an 11-point lead in the top of the table. And in my opinion, it's a done deal. There are still 7 games left in the season, but there is no doubt in my mind that Inter Milan are getting this victory and winning the Serie A title this year. But Juventus were able to get back on track, get a 3-1 victory over Genoa. You got goals from Kulusevski, Alvaro Morata, and even Weston McKennie getting another goal for Juventus, just continuously being a force for them. Let's see, Lazio defeating Verona 1-0, Napoli defeating Sampdoria 2-0, Roma getting a victory as well after looking pretty solid in that Europa League match against Ajax. And Atalanta at the moment look like they're going to finish off with a 3-2 victory over Fiorentina. So I believe with that win, they will stay 1 point behind Juventus for the 4th spot. Napoli right behind there as well. It's very tight from 2 to 5. Anything can happen there. I mean, Milan only have a 4-point lead over 5th place Napoli. So honestly, those 2 to 5th place, 2nd to 5th place, anything can happen in that spot. I would not be surprised if that's completely reversed by the end of the season, because it just has not felt the same from AC Milan after, I don't know, I would say since the knockout rounds of the Europa League. It just has not felt the same from them. They have not been that same type of team. Zlatan hasn't really been, the guy anymore. He hasn't really been, dominating games. And that's a big reason why they needed to get a striker during that winter transfer window. They never did it, and it's obviously hurting them now. So, Inter Milan, man, big time season from them. Now let's move on to La Liga, where things are getting very, very exciting. The El Clasico, come on, we just had El Clasico, and Real Madrid defeated Barcelona 2-1. Goals from Benzema and Kroos in the first half pretty much sealed this win, because Real Madrid are playing so dominant on the defensive end, even though Barcelona did had 18 shots, they had more possession. Real Madrid were just consistently being a thorn in that Barcelona side, not allowing them to get clear-cut chances. They only had 4 shots on target this whole game, Barcelona did. Real Madrid didn't do much better. They only had 3, but they took advantage of the ones they had. And that is why, Real Madrid at the moment, well, not anymore, but after this win, they were at the top of the La Liga table. That was pretty much what this win was for. It was to see whoever can get to the top. And at the moment, it looks like Atletico Madrid and Real Betis are drawn 1-1 in the 83rd minute. So, I guess anything can still happen there. 2 goals happened early there, but Atletico Madrid just have not looked the same after being eliminated from the Champions League. It clearly feels like their confidence is certainly down. They have not had that same flair. João Felix hasn't really been playing at that same level. Luis Suarez still gives a bit, but it just has not felt the same from Atletico Madrid. And with those drop points, in the last 5 games, they got 2 draws and a loss, which is not going to cut it, especially when you got teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid winning multiple games in a row and really putting pressure on the league leaders in Atletico Madrid. It's really been a fight there. And you look at the top 3, you got Atletico with 67 at the moment. Like, if they win or lose, it'll change there. They'll either go to 69 or they'll be at 66 points tied with Real Madrid. And then you got Barcelona with 65. It is so close at the top of the table. And a lot of that, you got to credit Barcelona and Real Madrid, to continuously fight and win the games, play well domestically, and not allow, at least for Barcelona, not allow, struggles in European or pretty much any of the cup matches really mess with their domestic league, campaign. And I really thought that Atletico Madrid were going to be the team to win here and really just take over, but you're looking at it, I can't say no to Real Madrid, man. They're just playing so well. They're playing together. The defense and attack seem to really be, finding its form at the perfect moment, and they're right there with it. Even though Barcelona certainly have a better attack, that happens when you have Lionel Messi, Antoine Griezmann, Ansu Fati. It happens, but I just don't see Real Madrid losing here, especially after winning against Barcelona in El Clásico. There's still a couple games left. We got 7 or 8 games left in the season. Oh, we have less than that. Oh, no. Okay, yeah. We have about 7 or 8 games left in the season. So it's going to be a very exciting finish here in La Liga. And lastly, let's move on to Ligue 1, which is the league I love covering as well, because I got my PSG there, battling for a league title, which is the first time it's happening, I guess, since the Monaco seasons, when Monaco won with Mbappe there, and Bernardo Silva, Fabinho. They had so many great players on that squad, so it's refreshing to see a team like Lille, Monaco, Ligue 1 really battle hard with PSG for this Ligue 1 title. It kind of, not entirely, but it helps with forgetting about that, the whole Farmers League. Everyone always talking about how this is obviously the worst league of the top 5, which I agree with them. It is a tough league, man, and this season is certainly showing that. Lille has been performing extremely well. They're an extremely clutch team as well. I talked about it, 2-3 weeks ago, or maybe a little longer than that, when Lille were tied going into extra time of the game, and you had Jonathan David just score 2 goals and really put that game away, and that was a huge 3 points that Lille picked up, because if not, they'd be tied right now. And then, of course, Lille defeating PSG in the domestic league game, it was huge. But this week, it's kind of taking care of business for all of those top teams. Lille defeating Metz 2-0. PSG dominating Strasbourg 4-1. Obviously, you get another goal from Mbappe. The guy can't stop scoring. You got Monaco dominating Dijon 3-0. A goal from Jovetic. You got a brace from Ben Yedder. And then you got Lyon dominating against Angers. A brace from Memphis Depay. Another goal from Lucas Paqueta. And that's what you got here in Liga, just those teams dominating these games and staying at the top of that table. You got Lille, who are still at 3-point lead over PSG with 69 points. PSG have 66 right behind them, and they do have that advantage in goal differential, so if it's tied, it goes in the edge of PSG, but then you still got Monaco right behind them with 65 points, and Lyon right behind Monaco with 64. Only 5 points separating 1 through 4. You gotta love it. I love the competition. Can't wait for this season to end to see who ends up on top. Anything can happen here. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to talk about the top 10 West Ham players this Premier League season. Right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the top 5 domestic leagues in Europe. We went over the Bundesliga, Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Liga, you name it, we talked about it. We got into all the tables. We got into all the games that happened this past week. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 West Ham players this season. This has been such an incredible year for West Ham. They've just consistently been near the top of the table with great performances week in and week out. And I'm super impressed with what we've seen. So these 10 players on this list are the people I believe have had the best impact on this incredible season of West Ham. You're going to have some incredible... Honestly, in my opinion, they have the best midfield duo in the entire Premier League. And that's saying something with players like De Bruyne, you got Bruno Fernandes, you got some incredible players, and I honestly feel like this duo on this West Ham team is the best of them all. I'm talking about together, not individually, obviously. But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting with number 10, we got Pablo Fornals. In 28 matches played, he got 4 goals, 3 assists. He's just a do-it-all type of player. I mean, he can pass the ball, he can score goals, as you know, evidence of his 4 goals and 3 assists so far this season. He's got about a 77% pass completion, which is a pretty decent average of about 25 passes a game. But the thing I like the most about him is that, yes, he can give it to you on the attack end, you know, can be part of, you know, scoring goals, can create goals for others, but he also helps out in the defense. He has a high work rate. He gets back when it's needed. He averages 1.4 blocks a game, 0.9 interceptions. So he does a little bit of everything on both ends. Obviously, he's not like a crazy talent, but he certainly works as hard as anybody on the field, and he's still extremely young. So, you know, at 25 years old, I guess he's kind of almost entering his prime, but he's still got a lot in him. So, very solid player for West Ham, and at number 10, he starts off my list. For number 9, we have a player who was one of the best players for the Hammers last season. This season, I wouldn't say he's, played worse, even though last year he was considered a runner-up for Hammer of the Year. In my opinion, there's just so much more competition, a lot better players. A lot of players stepped up from this season, and that's why Angelo Ogbonna comes in at number 9. Maybe that's insane. I mean, he's obviously one of their best center backs, and I was thinking about putting him somewhere around 7, 6, but there were just a couple players that I couldn't put him ahead. And you look at what he's done. I mean, he's gotten you 2 goals. He's one of their best passers at an 83.6 pass completion of about 31 passes a game. He is a workhorse anchor inside on that back line. 5.6 clearances a game, by far the best on the team. He's also great in the air, 2.4 aerial duels a game, 1.4 blocks, 0.8 interceptions. So he does a little bit of everything on that defensive end. And the fact that he was also able to give you a nice presence in the box on those corner kicks and free kicks is a added bonus. So Ogbonna did have to deal with a few injuries this season. So maybe that dialed him back just a little bit throughout the year, but he's still a super reliable center back. Maybe I'm going to be biting myself in the butt here by putting him down at number 9. If you guys think there's, where he should be placed on this list, please do tell me. But I just think Ogbonna deserves to be here at number 9. Still in the top 10, just behind a few people that I think impacted this year's winning a little bit more. At number 8, I have Mikel Antonio. And this is a man that was dealing with a lot of injuries this season. But the thing is, when he came back in the second half of the year, there was something different that I saw in that West Ham team. It just had a little bit more flair, a little bit more attacking presence in that front three, and that was because of Antonio. I mean, his presence in that front three at that number 9 position is something that they don't have on their team. Like, there is nobody on that West Ham team that can do what Mikel Antonio can do. Like, for Ogbonna, there are other guys on that team that can do what he does. Mikel Antonio has a skill set that is very unique on this West Ham team, and that is his pace and his finishing ability. Obviously, you got guys like that will be later on this list that have shown incredible finishing, but with that combination of speed, control in the box, and finishing, nobody else has that like Antonio does. 7 goals, 5 assists this year in just 22 games played. His passing could be a lot better, only 65% pass completion of about 16 passes a game, but he does get 0.8 key passes a game, which means he's willing to get the ball out and he's good at making that extra pass. And he also has 1.5 dribbles a game. He's very technically skilled. He gets by players. So he can really create a run on his own and finish it with a very solid goal or get teammates involved, which I feel is something that is extremely important in the Premier League, especially when you have all these, really good center backs throughout the league. And, obviously you have one of the best defensive teams in the world right now at the top of the table. He is very important. And when he came to this team, he really changed the look of them. Like, they clearly missed him in that number 9 spot after, he started, I think it was like in February, that he had missed up until it was his first start since like November, and he has held on to that role since then and has been a huge factor for this team. And I also forgot, he is also a huge aerial duel threat. 2.2 aerial duels won a game, which means he is a serious threat inside the box on corner kicks, free kicks. He can do it all, and that's why I really enjoy Mikel Antonio's game, and that's why he comes in at number 8 on my list. At number 7, we have a very underrated player, in my opinion, Vladimir Kufal. Maybe I said his name wrong, but 28 matches played, man has put up 4 assists, about a 71% pass completion on 43 passes a game. He literally does it all for this team. You need him to get people involved, find guys in the right positions, 1.2 key passes a game. You need him to stop the break, stop a counter, stop the attacking teams, the opposition, 1.3 tackles a game. He puts his body on the line, 2 blocks a game, which is best on this team. 1.1 interceptions, 3.6 clearances. I mean, he is one of the best fullbacks. He has, performed into being in the discussion as one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League this season. 3.6 clearances, 1.3 aerial duels. I mean, I can go on and on with the amount of things that Kufal has done for this team. And honestly, now when I really think about it, I think I might even put him a little too low. I think maybe he should be like 6. I'm definitely not 5th, but maybe I can put him up one spot higher. And you know what? This is my show. I'm doing it. I'm putting Kufal at number 6. I'll tell you guys who officially got dropped down to number 7. I don't know. I just feel like this man did so many different things for this team, whether it be an anchor in that back line, be an outlet for the attack, be an excellent, one of the best crossers on this team, and just continuously making opportunities for this West Ham team. Kufal has had an incredible season. That's why he comes in at number 6. Now, the man who just dropped down to number 7 is Jared Bowen. 32 matches played. Man has put up 7 goals and 4 assists. Pass completion should be a lot better than what it is. only passes the ball about 19 times a game at sub 69% pass completion. He does have 0.7 key passes. He's a very solid, technically skilled player at 1.1 dribbles a game. He's a very flashy player. He's a guy, when I look at him, he can do a little bit of everything, but he doesn't do any one thing great. And I like those type of players because you can always insert him. He won't really mess things up all that much. He's a very solid depth piece type of player, but he has played a very significant role on this team, being a very strong outlet for goals, setting up players. He's very adept at making that extra pass for a better look at the goal. He's not a goal-hungry type of player, which I also very much like. And he also has a high work rate. He gets back on that defensive end and works very, very hard. 0.8 blocks a game, 0.7 interceptions as well. He can do a little bit of everything, and that's why I put Jared Bowen so high up on this list, because he can pretty much do it all, just not, just at an average level. But you don't get a lot of guys who can defend, pass, and score goals very often. So at number 5 now, this is one that could be controversial, but I don't know, just the impact he's had on this team, the transformation he has given to this West Ham team was just too hard to ignore. And I put Jesse Lingard at number 5. Maybe I'm getting like a whole array of boos right now because I understand Jesse Lingard has only played 8 games for this West Ham team. But the thing is, you cannot, and maybe he should be behind Kufal, just because Kufal has been there for most of the season, 28 matches played, and has been super consistent for this West Ham team. But you got to look at what this man has done in 8 games. 6 goals scored, 3 assists, almost an 80% pass completion of about 35 passes a game, 1 key pass a game, 1.9 dribbles a game, and he also contributes on the defensive end with 0.8 tackles and 0.9 interceptions a game. I mean, he does it all for this West Ham team. That cannot be denied. He's literally been, I want to say, probably their best player since his arrival. He's probably been their best player since his arrival. He has been that good. Even recently, was it today or yesterday? He had a brace against, I think it was Leicester City. He has been absolutely incredible. This move that he made from Manchester United to West Ham has been amazing for his career. His value is super high up. He's a young player. Obviously, now West Ham is going to try to hold on to him because of the impact he has had on this team. And had he played from the start of this season, he'd be number 1. I really cannot deny it because who knows? I mean, if you're looking at, obviously you cannot expect him to score 6 goals and 3 assists every 8 games. That's not very realistic. I mean, maybe it is, but, I'm not going to think about it that way. But he could have easily scored, had he played a full season with West Ham, somewhere around 15 goals, maybe 10 assists, maybe a little less than that, but that's great numbers. That's great. That's star-like numbers. And Jesse Lingard, at the age he's at, man, he's got a lot of room that he could still grow at. And I see a future star here. If he stays at West Ham, I hope he does. I hope Manchester United doesn't try to bring him back and try to be like, oh, you can be a depth piece for us. I don't like that. They let him go. Let him, sell him off to West Ham and let him enjoy his time there. Let him continue to build on his game and then make a move away to another big club. So Jesse Lingard comes in at number 5 because of just, the impact that he has had on this West Ham team since his arrival. At number 4, we have the always consistent Łukasz Fabianski. The goalkeeper for this West Ham team has always been as consistent as they come, at least since I have been a soccer fan. I always hear his name as one of those, mid-tier goalkeepers in the world. He's not really, anything anyone's going to ever talk about in like a top 10 discussion. That'll never happen, but he has always been a very consistent player. And last year was one of his best seasons for West Ham. This season, he hasn't had that crazy of a season. Because early on of last season, he was considered one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. This season, he hasn't reached that level, but he's still giving you like about a 70%, 70.2 save percentage, 10 clean sheets in 30 matches played. And his defense hasn't been locked down by any means. I mean, the team has played great, and obviously you got some great midfielders on that team that certainly help on the defensive end. But Fabianski has been a big part of this team for some time and is a big reason why they're so organized in that back line. He's an excellent leader to have and a perfect guy to have as your everyday goalkeeper in the Premier League. So at number 4, we got Łukasz Fabianski. At number 3, we have a man who has certainly risen in the rankings here for West Ham, but he has had such an incredible season. We have Aaron Cresswell. The fullback has had such an incredible season. He's been their leading assist man with 7 assists on the year, almost a 75% pass completion on 52 passes a game, 1.3 key passes a game, and he also gives it to you on the defensive end with 1.3 blocks, 0.9 interceptions, 2.5 clearances a game. He really does it all, but it's his playmaking that has really transformed him into one of the best players on this West Ham team. And if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be as good of a goal-scoring team and an attacking team as they were this season. It's his crosses and that really opened a lot of things up for this team and really changed the way this season would go for them. Because if they didn't have that playmaking threat on the outside, someone that can really change it for them, they weren't going to have that many opportunities to score. Because, yes, I don't want to say their names, but the guys that I'm about to talk about, they're very solid players, very good midfielders, but they're not players that'll just set people up. They're not even half of a De Bruyne in that sense. They're obviously great defensively, and they can certainly score the ball as well. But when it comes to setting up guys and being a playmaker, they do not fall under that category. So having an Aaron Cresswell to do that while also playing great defense this season was a huge, huge get for this West Ham team. And that's why it comes in at number 3. And now at number 2, we have Declan Rice. A man who has been known as one of the best defensive midfielders right at the moment, especially in the Premier League. Super young, he's like 22 years old right now. And he has proven himself to be such a consistent figure in that West Ham lineup. I mean, his ability to be able to control the tempo of that midfield with his incredible defense. He's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league for a reason. 1.7 tackles a game, 1.6 blocks, 1.9 interceptions, and 1.3 aerial duels a game. The man can also pass the ball about as good as anybody on this team. Almost an 86% pass completion on about 43 passes a game. He also has a goal and an assist this year. That one goal was a penalty kick, but still, I mean, to be able to really affect the game on both ends. He's mainly a holding midfielder, so he's someone who's going to usually stay back and handle the tempo of the midfield. But, I mean, the fact that he can also pretty much anchor a defense just shows you the versatility that this man has. And if he gains any sort of just good play on the attacking end, he could easily become one of the best midfielders in the world. He's got already the tools that you need on defense and passing. He just needs to add a little bit more to his attacking versatility. But even technically skilled, he's a very good player. I mean, almost a dribble per game. He's able to get by players and really, create things for his team, really get the ball moving down the field. And that is something you need to have in that midfield, and Declan Rice gives it to you in spades. And lastly, at number 1, we have Thomas Souček. Souček has been absolutely extraordinary this season. Leads the team with 9 goals, and to do that at the center midfielding role is extremely hard. 33 matches played, 9 goals. He's got a 74% pass completion on 34 passes a game. Also gives it to you defensively with 1.2 tackles, 1.3 blocks, 1.3 interceptions, 3.3 clearances. I mean, those numbers jump off the page to you with a guy that can score goals at the rate that he does and in the variety of ways that he does. Because, I mean, the size of that man, you would assume that most of them are all headers. And yeah, a good amount of them are. But he also has great skills with the ball at his feet. He's shown it to be able to have the composure and just the ability to score goals with multiple defenders in front of him with his feet. It's really an extraordinary thing. And you look at those 5.3 aerial duels won a game. That's just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's no surprise, really, because you look at the length that he has. He's a very, very tall guy. He uses that strength to his advantage, and more often than not, wins out on those aerial duels. And that is exactly the reason why Thomas Susek is such a versatile midfielder. He can literally do it all on that end, and is someone that is going to be a very big part of West Ham's future. Obviously, if he stays. I mean, with this kind of season, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people wanting his services, but I really hope he stays at West Ham, along with guys like Lingard, Rice, even though I know Rice is also a big-time, is someone that is being courted by a lot of big-time clubs, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plans out, but yeah, man, West Ham has a lot of great players on that team. And that's going to wrap it up for this show. So, as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.